The Problem of Identity Politics and Its Solution. This is Ron. Welcome to Storytime. And in the beginnings of identity politics can be traced to 1973, the year the first volume of the Gulag Archipelago, a book that demolished any pretense of communism's moral authority, was published in the West. The ideological challenge of socialism was fading, its fighting spirit dwindling. This presented a challenge for the left, how to carry on the fight against capitalism when its major ideological alternative was no longer viable. The left found its answer in identity politics that grew out of anti-colonialism. Marx's class struggle was reformulated into an ethno-racial struggle, a ceaseless competition between colonizer and colonized, victimizer and victim, oppressor and oppressed. Instead of presenting collectivism and central planning as the gateway to the realization of genuine freedom, the new multiculturalist left turned to unmasking the supposed power relations that subordinated minorities and exploited third world nations. The original battleground was the American university, where, as Bruce Boyer writes in The Victim's Revolution, The Rise of Identity Politics and the Closing of the Liberal Mind, the point, quote, the point became simply to prove repetitively, endlessly, certain facile, reductive, and invariably left-wing points about the nature of power and oppression. In this new version of the humanities, all of Western civilization is not analyzed through the use of reason or judged according to the aesthetic standards that have been developed over centuries. Rather, it is viewed through the prisms of race, class, and gender, and is hailed or condemned in accordance with certain political checklists. Unquote. Under the new leftist dispensation, the study of English became the application of critical and literary theory to disparate texts so as to uncover the hidden power relations they concealed. The study of history became the study of social history, or people's history. The record of Western civilization's oppression of various groups, and popping up everywhere, were new departments of studies: African American studies, women's studies, queer studies, Chicano studies, gender studies, and so on. What these radicals blandly called multiculturalism, wrote Irving Kristol, quote, is as much a war against the West as Nazism and Stalinism ever were. Under the guise of multiculturalism, their ideas, whose radical substance often goes beyond the boundaries or the bounds of the political into sheer fantasy, are infiltrating our educational system at all levels, unquote. This revolution in American universities was accomplished swiftly and largely outside the public eye. What little resistance the radicals met was vanquished with accusations of racism. It was not until the late 80s, with Jesse Jackson's presidential campaigns, the battle over the Stanford core curriculum, and the publication of Alan Bloom's The Closing of the American Mind, that the rise of identity politics on campus and the idea of political correctness, quote unquote, became a page one story. By that time, however, it was too late. Alumni, trustees, and parents had no recourse. The American university was irrevocably changed. There have been liberal critics of identity politics through the years. In 1991, historian Arthur Schlesinger Jr. published The Disuniting of America, Reflections on a Multicultural Society. Schlesinger noted that the Soviet Union had collapsed in a heap of warring nationalities and that the state of Yugoslavia was in a process of doing the same, and asked whether America would be next, presenting America as a nation of nations, a shared national culture whose diverse citizenry is united behind principles of liberty and equal justice. Schlesinger quoted 1782 letters from an American farmer. Quote, he is an American who, leaving behind him all his ancient prejudices and manners, receives new ones from the new mode of life he has embraced, the new government he obeys, and the new rank he holds. Here, individuals of all nations are melted into a new race of men, unquote. In 2004, Harvard political scientist Samuel Huntington published Who Are We? Huntington examined the stunning immigration, both legal and illegal, from Mexico and argued that it was undermining long-standing notions of American national identity. America, Huntington said, has both a creed and a culture. The creed is formulated in the founding documents of our nation and in the speeches of Abraham Lincoln. The culture derives from the Anglo-Protestant settlers who first peopled North America. Huntington worried about a Hispanization of American culture. This book was controversial, to say the least, nor was it without weaknesses. It's hard for this descendant of Irish and Italian immigrants to accept the notion that America's culture is monolithically Anglo-Protestant. Furthermore, Huntington tended to underestimate the importance of the creed in shaping the culture, but such criticism should not obscure the fundamental point. Huntington, a Democrat who advised Hubert Humphrey's 1968 presidential campaign, shared the same concerns one finds today among Trump supporters about immigration's effect on American society. This year, another liberal academic, Columbia humanities professor Mark Lilla, has taken up the banner. Identity politics on the left, he writes, quote, was at first about large classes of people seeking to redress major historical wrongs by mobilizing and then working through our political institutions to secure their rights. But by the 1980s, it had given way to a pseudo-politics of self-regard and an increasingly narrow and exclusionary self-definition that is now cultivated in our colleges and universities. The main result has been to turn people back into themselves rather than turning them outward towards the wider world they share with others. It has left them unprepared to think about the common good in non-identity terms and what must be done practically to secure it, especially the hard and unglamorous task of persuading people very different from themselves to join a common effort. Lilla exhorts Democrats to replace identity liberalism with civic liberalism in the mode of Franklin Roosevelt. That Lilla's opponents wasted no time in labeling his arguments as racist is a testament to how divided the left is on this issue. And that is part one of the problem of identity politics and its solution. It is adapted from a speech delivered at Hillsdale College on October 24th during a 2-week teaching residency at Hillsdale as a Pulliam Distinguished Visiting Fellow in Journalism. And that is written, or the speech was given by Matthew Continetti. And he is the editor-in-chief of the Washington Free Beacon. He received his BA from Columbia University. Prior to joining the Beacon, he was the opinion editor of the Weekly Standard, the author of The K Street Gang, The Rise and Fall of the Republican Machine, and The Persecution of Sarah Palin, How the Elite Media Tried to Bring Down a Rising Star. Continetti's articles and reviews have appeared in the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, the Financial Times, the Los Angeles Times, and the Washington Post. And this is reprinted by Imprimis, which is a publication of Hillsdale College. And it is November 2017 issue, volume 46, number 11. And so tomorrow, on Sunday, today is being Saturday, the 30th of December, and tomorrow on New Year's Eve, the 31st, I will be reading part 2 of this article. And until then, thank you very much for joining me, and have a great day.